on, everyone? I am Bill Worcester, Zazubaar, of course, if you prefer to call me that. I don't know why you would. It's a weird-sounding name. Just call me Bill. I have David Joshua Hernandez with me, a.k.a. Gorzard. Which one? I mean, I don't know what you prefer to be called at this point. I call you David, David, Dickhead. I mean, any of these number of names usually suffice when I refer to you.
I go by many names. I'm pretty sure when they make a Wikipedia page about me, there's going to be a separate section dedicated to my aliases.
Every time you speak, sometimes I feel like I could put quotes around it and then go, and then he went to be a serial killer. You know, like those like Lifetime original movies where they cut to like a black screen with white text on it. You know, where it's like he served 22 years in incarceration before escaping and disappearing into the woods. Nobody's ever seen him again. Although murders turn up in the woods occasionally, and you know it fits his profile. Who knows?
Although
anyway,
I probably do deserve that because I do that with you and Bill memes, like the recent potatoes meme.
Are you saying that's the equivalent? Are you saying that's the equivalent of murder?
No, I'm saying that everything you say becomes the potential for another Bill meme.
Oh, what was the potato thing? We don't have to talk about this now. Anyway, point is, well, that's a killer start to a fucking podcast. It's lost, found, but never filmed, kids. The show where David brings scripts for things that were never made, movies that never got shot, concepts that were conceived but never committed to celluloid, even though celluloid is not how we watch movies anymore. But regardless, David has these stories to tell to us. So, David, what do you have? You're going to do two this week, because at the end of the last episode, we announced that we will be discussing the God of War script this week, correct?
Right. Yeah.
But we're going to be doing more than that, probably, and we can. I guess we can get into that as we discuss the God of War script, because I suppose you'll have something to say in regards to that. But
right.
Why don't we start with that, David? So, God of War, what happened?
Well, first of all, back in 2005, they announced that they would do a film adaptation of the video game, and they hired David Self to write a first draft. And I think that's the one that I have because no other writer is credited on it. You know, no revisions by this writer. No.
I see what you're saying. So you don't know if it's a later version that was amended and it's just not credited, or if it's his first draft.
Right. I mean, it doesn't specify either which version it is. It's dated January 31st, 2007, and David Self is the one credited on the script.
That's 2 years later, though, so that probably is amended. If not by him, then by somebody else, you would imagine.
Right. Well, people got to understand that it takes long to write scripts. People assume it's going to take long.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. People assume it's going to take
when people don't know what the fuck they're trying to do.
Exactly. Try writing a script in 3 months, and I can guarantee you that it's going to take way longer to fully realize that script. I
wrote my script for my movie while I was making the movie. So don't tell me about fucking making scripts up on the fly, you bastard.
Well, in my case, I demand perfection. That's why it's taken me three additional years to write this script that I'm writing.
Wow.
But
I don't have that kind of commitment to anything. If I don't do it in a couple weeks, then it's never going to get done.
Well, anyways, apparently Universal Studios was going to make the film. I don't think they are anymore. They might be. I'm not sure. There has been...
But they had the rights, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they have the rights. Or they probably still do. And
or
apparently
at least one of their companies still does, or whatever.
Right. Apparently, Daniel Craig was offered a role. I'm not saying it was the role.
Oh, yeah, no, that would... shave him. Shave him? Give him the... Do you think it works?
No.
I don't think so either.
Craig.
His head is too... Yeah, no. He would look like a ape from Planet of the Apes, but not like the Planet of the Apes we remember. Like the concept art for the original Planet of the Apes script. Like that's what... To bring it all back to movies that were never made. That kind of Planet of the Apes. It wouldn't work. Wow. So I guess who would he play then?
Well...
Ares?
I'm not sure.
No, at that time he would have been too young.
The dude who confirmed this was David Jaff. Apparently, he's the creator of God of War. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but he said that they sent out the script.
I had no idea there was one dude who was credited as the creator of God of War. I thought it would have been some Greek guy who came up with the original story. I don't know. No, I get it. I'm kidding.
Well, he said that in 2010, they sent the script out to Daniel Craig, but he fortunately turned it down.
He threw it in the fucking garbage before he even read it. Like the FedEx guy got there and was just like, "Hey, Danny," and he just like fucking he emerged from his dark lair, like cigarette hanging from his mouth, robe with burns on it and shit. You know, this is obviously after he's made Casino Royale. That's why he's like this, and he's just like, and he's just like, I got a new script for you. The FedEx guy throws it up, just fucking hits him in the head, knocks the cigarette out of his mouth. The FedEx guy just fucking speeds off. Daniel Craig just looks at the script, rips the box and the script inside the box in half, and then throws it out. I think that's how that goes down. So I don't think Daniel Craig ever read it. You're probably the first person to have ever actually read it because of that incident.
That's basically the imagery I have of Daniel Craig, how he is in real life, that he's just this grumpy dude.
He might be a little different. I think he might come back to be Bond one more time, and I'm kind of hoping he does, because that last one, I have issues with that last one. Anyway, so he wouldn't have been Kratos, though.
I hope not.
I agree with you, unless they were going to do some CGI to make his head less chimpanzee-esque.
I mean,
I love Daniel Craig, by the way. There's nothing wrong with having a head that looks like a chimpanzee, but it's not Kratos.
Right. Well, apparently in 2012, they decided to go in a completely creatively different direction, and they hired Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan to write a new script for God of War. I have no idea if it was a page one rewrite or if they're just, completely revising David's self-script.
It's like a situation that happened with Godzilla 2014, where David Callahan basically wrote the movie, and then everybody else just made it different a little bit.
Right. I mean, whatever version we're going to get of the God of War movie, I hope it's nothing like this script, because it's not terrible.
Okay.
It's a goddamn waste of, film.
Well, they never shot it, as we always like to specify. Lost film, but never filmed. So it's just a waste of paper or digital gigabytes or whatever the hell you want to, whatever the hell you want to describe it as. So here's the thing. I've never played through the first two original God of War games in full. I've played bits. I've seen the cutscenes. I kind of know what they're about. I know the first one, he's pissed at Ares, and he kills Ares and becomes the God of War. And I know that in the second one, Zeus is pissed at him, takes away his godliness, and then he has to reclaim it. And then at the end of it, he rises up on the Titan. Are they the Titans or the element? Whatever the fuck they are, yeah, the big rock things. Yeah, and they storm Mount Olympus, and then that's God of War 3, which is the only God of War game I've ever played in full, and I know it very well. So that's where my God of War fandom begins, and that's what I know of it. But I'm very familiar with the backstory, believe you me. So this is an adaptation of the first one, though, I imagine.
It is, yeah.
And I remember back when I first got into God of War, and I was reading about this movie, that all the writers were like, "Oh, we're using the game as like as an original play script, like as a play bit, as like an original, like we've got to use it as our template for the story, And I was like, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea." Was it a good idea?
Wait, what?
Was it a good idea to use to be so faithful to the original game? Is my question.
I mean, there's many ways to be faithful to something while at the same time having creative liberties with it.
Would the game have gotten a divorce with these screenwriters for the faithfulness of them? David, you've got to put headphones in, buddy. I can hear myself on the other end there.
God damn it!
Sorry, bro.
How about now?
I don't.
Hold on. let me try something. How about now?
Yeah, that's fun for the listeners to hear. I don't hear myself now. I will let you know if it changes.
All right.
Anyway, so back to my question. So
Well,
how faithful is it to the first game, and how successful is it at being that faithful?
it's absolutely faithful, and that's like I said with the Halo movie, that's also its greatest flaw because it doesn't do anything special with the source material. I said with the Halo film, it almost feels like it just like an adaptation of someone's experience with the video game. God of War is exactly that, but on a much more excruciating level because page after page is just, like Kratos going through this dungeon and that dungeon and pulling these levers and killing these monsters. There's just no, there's no plot. There's no emotional levity. It's just, an adaptation of the video game. And they're like,
Now, it's been so long since I've dabbled into the realm of the original God of War game. So how does it sort of go down? So how does it start? How does the movie start?
Okay, again with Godzilla King of the Monsters, it's been a while since I've read this, and I haven't had the chance to read the script yet, so that's my fault.
All right, no worries.
Hold on. I'm skipping over the script right now to... Well, I guess it kind of begins with...
Does it start with, like, the backstory?
I guess, because Kratos is with his family, and this is in the second page. And God, I should have read this at least.
Yeah, you should have at least read a little bit of it. Jesus.
Yeah.
Thank God we have the backup thing later. Whatever.
Now that I actually do know a little bit more because I actually like that script.
All right, well, we'll talk about it. So, God of War though. So they start out with the backstory though. Yeah, I don't know if that's. I think you have to start there. The games don't they?
No, they don't. They actually reveal that through flashbacks later on.
Yeah, I don't remember because the stuff I've played of the original God of War, you start out just slashing through sea monsters.
Right, because that's basically what the game is, just pure hack and slash.
With story injected to motivate that. And it's not like a brilliant narrative. It's just a good motivation in the guise of a Greek myth to get you from point A to point B. Right. And there's cool ideas to salivate you throughout. But it's not a complete narrative. And I just wonder if the movie even bothers to do the work to add in more of a narrative. Does it include elements from the other games? Like do they set up that Kratos is the son of Zeus? Or I guess that wouldn't have even been revealed. No, it would have been revealed at that point, right?
I don't think so because God of War 2 came out in 2007 at the same as well, didn't it?
I don't remember.
I'm looking it up right now because I know for a fact that the first game came out in 2005.
So they literally announced the movie the same year as the game came out.
Right. And I was right. God of War 2 came out in 2007. Wow, 10 years ago. God damn.
Damn.
We're old.
We are a little old. We're also still in our early 20s, though, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Right. But what's the action like? Like, how much of the gods do you see? Like, how faithful is it visually? Because, man, that would require a big budget. Was this going to have, like, a big budget?
Oh, I mean, they confirmed that the budget was going to be $150 million.
That's not a small chunk of change.
I mean, which is probably like the exact amount you would need for a movie like this.
I guess the original. I mean, God of War 3, you would need a little more, but I guess the original you could get by with that. I think that we would also be remiss to not think that they would probably put a lot more talking in it. Although I don't think they should, man. If you're going to do a really faithful God of War movie, I think you do it like Mad Max. Just nonstop, like the new Mad Max. Just nonstop action with a little bit of dialogue sprinkled throughout to give us a sense of the people, you know?
Right. Well, in the case of I'm assuming we're talking about Fury Road, right?
Yeah. Road Warrior feels a lot like that too, though.
Right. Well, those films are more like visually driven films as opposed to plot driven.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why the direction and the story that they're trying to tell works so well in that context.
Right. With God of War, I don't think you can. I mean, you probably could with the.
No, I think the idea is to do it like that. I don't think you do a talky God of War movie like Kratos is a dickhead.
Well, I mean, Clash of the Titans was kind of like that, and it was.
The
I'm talking
original
about
or the new one? The original.
The original.
But you don't want a God of War movie to be like that.
Here's the ironic thing about that. I got into God of War because of Wrath of the Titans.
I never saw that. I saw the original Clash of the Titans in theaters around the same time. Because that was around the same time. And by the original Clash of the Titans, I mean the first one that with fucking Sam Worthington. I had seen the original Clash of the Titans much earlier than that in my life, and I revisited it around that time. And yes, it is infinitely better. However, it is a Ray Harryhausen, him trying to do his version of fantasy of Greek myth, amidst like other fantasy elements. I don't think that's what you want for a God of War movie. I think you do something more like Mad Max, but also like a grindhouse, just bloody Quentin Tarantino, but also just silent, just him ripping through monsters thing. I don't think you need him sitting in big throne rooms yelling at gods or, princes or whatever. There's not a lot of that in the script, though, is there?
I mean, like, there's some talking here and there, but it's mainly pure action, like mindless action. And I'm not talking about like the Michael Bay type. I mean, it's Kratos swinging his whatever those things that are hooked to his arms.
His Chaos Blades.
Yeah. There's this small subplot that involves a Minotaur, this old fatherly Minotaur hunting Kratos because he killed his Minotaur son.
Oh wow! Was it in the midst of like a typical God of War, like him just ripping through 8 million enemies? He doesn't care about any of them in particular. It's just like a big just whack, whack, whack.
Yeah, it's like that, and then eventually it switches to the scene of this big old Minotaur, just I guess looking at his son's body. I'm assuming it was his son. Like I said, it was a long time since I read the script. It wasn't good, and I don't really like to remember it that much because it was a pain to read.
It's just because it's so excruciatingly simplistic because it's exactly like the game with nothing added for it to work in the film medium.
Right. It's basically a 126-page detailed summary of the video game, of someone's experience playing the video game. And
but that's gotta be fun at points, though.
Well, oh yeah, but as an Easter egg, not for like a full feature film.
Sure.
Like with Halo, what Alex Garland did is he took like little bits of Easter eggs for the fans, like the fact that you can go up to an elite behind his back and kill him with the butt of your gun. Mm-hmm. That's in there. Small little details like that are in there, but God of War, the entire damn thing is just someone playing the video game.
Right. And there's no development of the narrative around that.
Right. It's just, adapting the story that's in the video game. It's not taking its own creative liberties. It's not doing anything with the source material. Because that's what I feel like. If you're going to adapt something, at least have fun with it instead of being like, I don't want to say a slave to the material because that kind of sounds wrong. Because in a way, you kind of have to be a slave to the material.
Because that I was a slave and you don't want to offend me. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. That joke may have been a little too far. No, it was fine. Anyway, so
like with
I see what you're saying. Because here's the fine line you got to walk with something like this. You have to acknowledge that you can't be 100% faithful to it. That's a bad idea. You have to look at it and go, if you're going to make a movie with that brand and that name, what should I do? And with God of War, I think that the right idea is to do it as a big action fest, But I think you gotta. Wow, were you just sharpening a pencil? That was loud. I think you gotta. But what you gotta do is you gotta have the narrative. You can't have him pulling levers and going through dungeons. You gotta have it be more interesting than that. You've gotta have him like fucking ripping through like, I don't know, just like level after level of enemies. Like, I don't know, you gotta do it like God of War 3, where every level is like just this insane action set piece. Do you remember you played God of War 3, right?
Oh, I played all the God of War games. I'm a big fan of the God of War franchise.
So do you remember when he's just like ripping up that mountain and he gets up and he kills the sun god at the top, and then he uses that sun god to kill the Titan?
Uh-huh. The iconic feel the power of the sun scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
Imagine if you just did that in live action. Like that's what you need to do. You don't do the slogs of him running through 800 skeletons around that. You just do that big action set piece in the guise of the narrative. Like God of War 3 is sort of the best movie to do the best game to adapt, because it's the simplest story. Kratos rises up, climbs the levels of Mount Olympus to go up to kill Zeus. It's what's that?
Well,
That's a fucking Bruce Lee movie, isn't it? Where he climbs like a tower of enemies and shit.
Yeah, Game of Death, but to be fair, that's like the last 10 minutes of the movie. That's the part of the movie that everybody remembers.
Oh, okay. Well, you do that, but better with God of War. That's your God of War movie.
The way I think of it, you can do an adaptation of the first 3 God of War films, because the plots are so plain and simple, especially the first one, that you can arrange the plots of the first 3 video games and put it into a 2.5-hour film.
So you take the 3 plots of the games and you merge them into one movie?
Yeah, I'd basically adapt the first...
Oh, no. That's a... Wait, what were you saying?
I said I would basically adapt the first 3 games into one movie. I honestly think it can work, because
Are you saying you like flash back to the first 2 stories at the start and then you go to 3? Because I'm telling you, man, 3's got to be its own thing. Because that's a movie right there. Kratos climbing the levels of Mount Olympus to get to the top to kill Zeus.
Isn't that? I mean, because each game is like we both said, that they're the plots, we can call them that. They're plain and simple. The first God of War, it's about Kratos wanting to get revenge against Ares, and he goes through these trials to get these items to kill Ares. God of War 2, he after the events of the first God of War, he becomes a god and he pisses off Zeus. He gets his powers taken away. Now he has to go through these trials to get those powers back and kill Zeus, which leads into the events of God of War.
So maybe what you do is you do a mix. See, here's what I think you do, David. I don't think you adapt any one of them in particular as one thing. I think you mix elements from them all into each other. I think you start the movie with him killing Ares and getting the godhood. And then very quickly, I think you just do like a montage. Well, you gotta also explain the backstory with his family. You could do that later, though.
Right. Which is what the video game does.
Although you could... Well, isn't part of the reason why he kills Ares because of what happened with his family? No?
Oh, yeah, because...
Okay, so you gotta start with that. So this script had the right idea to start with that, I think. Because that is part of his motivation. He's just this, brutal killing machine because he freaked out at one point and murdered his family.
Right.
He used to be a real prick. I mean, he still is a real prick. That's the thing about Kratos, too. He's a real prick. He's a real prick in the script, right? What's the guy's name? David Self or whatever?
Yeah, he wrote... He was one of the co-writers on the 2010 remake of The Wolfman.
Oh, I don't completely hate that movie. I hate most of that movie, but a little bit...
I remember you absolutely hated that film. As a matter of fact, isn't that how we met? Was through your review of The Wolfman?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because I remember specifically watching you and Nicola reviewing The Wolfman. She thought... No, you thought he looked like the Grinch. She thought it was a bull without the horns.
See, I didn't completely hate it, though. I thought it was a great conceptually, that's a brilliant movie, but in execution,
it shows.
It's not great, especially the third act. It turns into this weird, like, half like superhero thing and half the original Wolfman. It's more of a Hulk movie than it is a Wolfman movie.
It's weird because
although it is more of a straight up Wolfman movie in that he just rips through people. Like, that's what's great. That is what's so good about that movie, is the fucking practical gore and everything. Like, when he just starts ripping, like that scene in London when he just starts ripping through people in the streets. Like, that's so fucking great.
Yeah, that's one of the highlights of the film. I don't mean to get off topic, but I have an early version as well of the Wolfman. It's undated. And it doesn't tell me who the writer is. I don't know if it was Andrew Kevin Walker or David Self. But that version of the Wolfman, it's so early. It's such an early version that, it's partially different from the final product because in that script, Sir John, he's still the bad guy. He had an affair with a gypsy, and she wouldn't, and she's pregnant with his child. And she won't come out and say who impregnated her, so they end up, I guess, killing her. But the babies survive. That's the post-credit scene in that script.
I thought you were going to say that was like Lawrence Talbot's mother.
Oh, no, his mother dies, too, in this film, like the way...
just like in the movie.
No, this was after, the death of his mother.
So is Sir John still... a werewolf in the original script?
Yeah, but it's done so much better in that script because Sir John is a real dick in that script, as opposed
to... he's a real weird idiot and megalomaniac in the movie, but he's just not... I don't understand him.
In the movie, he's just being Sir Anthony Hopkins. In the early script that I read, he's just a real fucking dick. It's pretty clear he's playing favorites with his sons.
Well, I'd like to talk about that at some point. So why don't we briefly go back to God of War, and then we'll dovetail into the next video game script we're going to talk about, which presumably we'll have more to say about because I've actually played that game. So, last thing. I think with God of War, first things first, it probably is best served as a video game. I am so excited about the next one. That looks amazing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I find it weird that it's just called God of War. I have an issue with...
I don't think that's going to stick. I imagine that's going to have a different title. Or it could just be a reboot, though, dude. It's a different mythology they're doing. It could just be... It's a new franchise. It's not a reboot. It's just... We're just kind of doing a new... It's a new story. So we're just going to go back to the original name. Because I imagine they might give Kratos, like, some powers from Norse mythology as well.
I mean, they should, but wait, so it's not in continuity with the previous games?
No, it is. That's what I mean. It's not a straight up reboot. It's like The Force Awakens. It's like it takes place so long after. It's got nothing to do with what happened in the back in the day. It's all about what's going on in the here and now, and it's just that character.
Right. Well, I'm extremely excited for that new the new game.
Especially
because, like I said,
since Kratos looks like less of a dick, and that's going to be nice.
Right.
He's got a nice little son that he's raising him, so he's a little bit of a dick to him, but he's like, all right, I like what you're about. I'm going to make sure you don't die.
Well, apparently the gameplay is going to be similar to like the gameplay from The Last of Us, which is a great game.
It looks like Uncharted 4.
I have not played any of the Uncharted games at all. So
you son of a bitch! I thought we might talk about the Uncharted script on this at one point. I might have to bring that up at some point.
I have that script. I just haven't read it yet. There's a shit ton of scripts I have that I haven't read yet.
Send that to me. Well, you haven't played the game, so I'll read it and then I'll talk about it.
Aren't they coming out with a collection they have already of the Uncharted games for PS?
I haven't. I'm gonna. What I'll do is I actually haven't played the first Uncharted. That's the only one I haven't played. I know exactly what happens in it. But I'm most familiar with 2 and 4. 3 I've only played a little bit of because it's not that good.
to what games can you compare them with? The reason why I haven't really been, uh, giving those games any amount of time or day is because they just don't seem compelling enough to me. But they're critically acclaimed games, so at one point I'm gonna get. Right?
The reason to play them is because they're incredibly easy to pick up and play. Number one, and number two, it's just they give you control over like the most incredible summer blockbuster movie you could ever imagine, because it is just the perfect modern day Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Romancing the Stone kind of story, but you can play it and you get to kill hundreds of people with guns in satisfying third-person combat. And also you get to just traverse the entire environment and climb up shit and just beat the crap out of guys one-on-one. See, you don't have to even play them, all of them. I would say start with 2, because 2 is easily the best one. 4 is my second favorite, although I've heard a lot of people say 3 is objectively better. But anyway, but comparing them to another game, I guess since it's the same studio, The Last of Us would probably be the closest thing. You've played that, right?
Yeah, I played that.
I haven't, but I know what they're like. It's the early games are not as intuitive as The Last of Us, and they're not as detailed in terms of the environment. But like Uncharted 4 goes crazy with that. But the first 3 are a lot more basic third-person shooters. You know, it's very Gears. It's Gears, right, but with like Indiana Jones aesthetic. Except, again, it's not set in the 30s. It's set in the present day. They're great. Play them. You're wrong for not playing them in the past. We'll talk about that script at some point, though, when I play through the first game again.
I will play those eventually. And speaking of Gears, that's actually our next script that we're going to be discussing.
Yes, let's get into it, shall we? So, Gears of War. I have played the 3 originals. They are they're my 3 favorite Xbox games. You know why?
I give up.
They're the only 3 Xbox games I've ever played in full.
I can sympathize with that.
So, wow, I love Gears. Probably my favorite... Gears 2 is one of my favorite video games of all time. It's probably my favorite combat in a video game ever. The shooting is so satisfying in Gears, and the melee and the cover... They are the best shooting games ever. I sound like an old person. Like, they're the best shooting games I've ever played. But they're the best. I mean, third-person shooter-wise, there's no contest. Gears is the standard. I haven't played the new one. Have you?
No. But here's the thing. I don't consider myself a big fan of Gears of War.
You whore.
Like, I'm more of a bigger fan of Halo and maybe Call of Duty.
Halo isn't as satisfying, though. Come on, man.
I mean, yeah, it's because it's a first-person shooter, and Gears is a third.
Story-wise, I will agree with you. Halo is definitely superior.
Personally, I like first-person shooter games better than third-person. I don't know why.
That is where we differ, good sir.
I don't know why. I love assuming the role of the character. You know, because that's what video games make you feel. They're all technically role-playing games because the player assumes the role of that character.
What's the term? Second person stories. You know, where it's like you get to decide how things go.
Right. First-person shooters makes me feel that completely. I feel like I am the one shooting, even though I'm just shooting with a fucking control. Although I think VR, which I personally believe is the future of video games, is going to change all that.
All right, fucking Steve Jobs, calm down.
I'm gonna invest some stock in some VR. I'm fucking kidding with that.
With what money?
Just like $5 in, and it'll grow into 500.
Yeah, good luck with that in this economy.
I'm assuming that's how stock works.
Yeah,
because I'm an intellectual that doesn't know how the world works.
There you go. I like third-person shooters most of all. I like Batman Arkham Asylum for that. I like third-person action games because I like to be able to look at the character I'm playing as.
Okay.
I get frustrated. I hate it in first-person games when I can't look at the person. Fucking Jack in BioShock? Ugh! I was like, I fucking wanted to bust my head against a wall. Fallout? Like, in Fallout, you can go third-person, but that's just a fucking mortifying experience. Not so much with the new one. I barely played Fallout 4, though. It's great. I didn't have the time.
I mean, I like third-person shooter games, like the Batman games. I really love those games.
Yeah, no, the Batman games are, again, they're a staple. Gears is better, though, and I'll tell you why. Because you get to fucking blow things apart with machine guns! Ah, it's so good. And the stories, exactly what you need to get you through those bits. Not so much in the first one. Here's the problem with the first Gears. It has such an ego to it. It's the first Gears has such this ego of like, oh, we're gonna be such this popular new Xbox IP. We're cutting edge, man. Halo's fucking ancient bullshit. They're ending. We're the new Halo. And because of that, there's all this like rigmarole about backstory that they don't establish in the first game, that you have to go to other exterior material or play the sequels to understand. And that's the problem with the first Gears. Like, the story is blech on its own, but it only works in the context of everything around it, because it's pretty much just going from point A to point B. I mean, the end game is kind of big, like where you launch the light bomb attack on the Locust. And every game kind of ends with this sense of, oh, we've won, even though we haven't won. So right. There we go. That's my diatribe about Gears. So this script, though. So what's your experience with the games? Which ones of them have you played?
I played some here and there because 10 years ago, when Gears was like the shit back then amongst Xbox Live. I don't know if it still is, because it's been a while since I've been on Xbox Live. I used to go to my friend's house, and he was fucking obsessed with Gears of War. Gears and Halo were the things he was obsessed with. And I remember, I think it was Gears 2, if I remember correctly. But he played it nonstop. And when he finished the campaign, he immediately went to multiplayer. And I played with him here and there. And this was before I think I had my computer and my Wi-Fi. So I would end up using his shit to watch porn and all that crap.
What? At his house?
At his house, yeah.
What?
Well, it's not like I jacked off to it. He was in the same room.
What are you watching the porn for then? What's the point?
I was young, Bill. The internet was still a mystery to me.
Oh, could you not watch porn at your house at that time?
No, because the Wi-Fi of the neighbors next door.
Is that what you were using?
Yeah, that's what I had to rely on before we got our own Wi-Fi. For those of you wondering, yes, I am using my own Wi-Fi right now and have been.
Okay, we were all just to be clear. I just want to be clear.
Yeah. Back then, though, when I first started into this piracy world, I had to rely on someone else's Wi-Fi.
So you could pirate movies, but you couldn't watch porn.
Well, sometimes their Wi-Fi went in and out, and it would be frustrating because sometimes I would be in the middle of a porn video and it would buffer for like 5 minutes. I'm like, fuck, shake your ass. And it turned out it was just the fucking signal being weak.
Your dick is just constantly rising and falling as the video is buffering. I've been there.
But speaking of dicks, my history with the games, I played it here.
I fucked all three of them. I stuck my dick right in the case and... No, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I played some of the games here and there. I never played the campaigns in their entirety, but when I read the script, it really influenced me to go out and buy the games. I bought the special edition where it comes with both the first 2 Gears in one case.
Mm.
I still have not finished either of those games because I stopped halfway and just forgot to play it.
You didn't get I got addicted, man. I had to finish. See, the problem was I played them on hard, and it was brutal. So it took me a while. It took me about a month to get through the first one. Gears 2 I beat in a weekend, and then Gears 3 took me like 2 weeks.
You poor bastard. Go outside. Go.
Well, I mean, the problem with Gears 1 didn't grab me, though, because the story isn't as good. Gears 2, I was like, oh my god, what's going on?
Oh, so kind of like Halo 2, where they finally build up the mythology with the sequel?
It's not about the mythology, it's about the characters doing stuff that makes sense and is interesting.
Uh-huh.
Like, stuff that they want to do, you know? Like, the first 3 has that too, but with Marcus, and it kind of works. 3's really good as well. 3 gets a lot of crap, but 3 is about as good as 2, except it doesn't have like the identity and the nostalgia and just the sheer perseverance of an identity of 2. 3's because 3 tries to, it's the cutting edge modern day Gears, because they took like 3 years to put out Gears 3, if not longer than that. It took them a while.
Right.
And then 4, I mean, it took them a while. It took them even longer. I still haven't played 4. Apparently, it's thoroughly fine. So I should get into that. I don't have an Xbox One though. I have an Xbox 360, and my friend has an Xbox One that he still will not let me steal yet. I'm working on it. Because that's how I was able to play the other Gears games. I stole my friend. My friend got to the point where he was just like, "This Xbox is in the way. Take it, please." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, that's how everybody gets their gaming consoles.
Yes. So anyway, so let's get into the script then, shall we? We talked about it a little bit last time. It's not a straight up adaptation of the first game, is it?
No, the version that I have is actually a prequel to the first game. The one that I have is the one
pre-Locust War?
I guess so. It's an origin. It's basically an origin story.
It takes place during the Pendulum Wars, doesn't it?
I think so. Like I said, I haven't played the games to know the complete mythology or the history of it.
All right, so there are 2 wars that. Here's how Gears breaks down. Number 1, it doesn't take place on Earth. Everybody thinks it takes place on Earth. It doesn't. It takes place on the planet Serra. It's like an Earth, which is Earth, but it's not. It's like a Never Never Land type of thing, except it's Earth.
That's weird because I also have the treatment for that version of Gears, and it opens up with saying Planet Serra, the Battle of Asphalt Fields, the last battle of the Pendulum Wars.
Yeah, so the Pendulum Wars is a war between different human factions on the planet Serra over this element called emulsion that is under the planet's surface that everybody's been using. It's been killing their planet because they've been using it. It's this toxic material, but it's crazy good energy-wise, and it's allowed them to be super technologically advanced and have like really insane Art Deco cathedral-esque cities while also having a pretty much modern-day aesthetic with some advanced military weaponry. And after at the end of that war, because of what they did during it, because of the quest to get the emulsion, digging into the earth and also all the war around it has pissed off the Locust to the point where they're sick of the humans and they're going to take the surface world. And that's where Gears 1 picks up like years after that war starts, like 10 years into it, I guess, maybe. And because Marcus is in prison for doing something during the Locust War that we never really fully understand until Gears 2, or 3 even. And there's all kinds of other stuff that we don't understand. But the Pendulum Wars is versus people before the Locust were a publicly known thing. There were like cover-up instances where the government was aware of them, and certain scientists like Marcus Phoenix's dad, but nobody else knew about them. So anyway, where does the movie pick up with all this?
Like I said, it begins with an action scene where we're introduced to Dom Santiago and Marcus Phoenix when they were younger, and I guess this is this action scene starts with the last battle of the Pendulum Wars. Like I said, you know more about the mythology than I do. this is all completely new to me. So when I was reading this, I wasn't reading this as a fan because at that point I wasn't a fan of Gears. I still am not, just to clarify. Not yet, at least.
Get into it, man. It's better than Halo.
I'll have to now because I spent like $20 on those games, so I have to finish them. But I really like this story. It really feels like a kind of like the type of film that would have been made during the 90s with like Tom Cruise and all that, when blockbusters were like this big event type of thing instead of like, something that happens all the time.
Right, well, we throw $100 million at a movie every a couple of times a month now.
Right. In this script, Marcus has a strained relationship with his father. But
that's
the script
in every game, except usually he's dead.
So he's dead in Gears 1? In the first game?
We're led to believe that he is dead in Gears 1 and 2, and we don't get any other indication of otherwise until 3.
See, because he's in this in the script.
Well, he doesn't die until like does he? But he dies in the script though, doesn't he? Surely.
Actually, yeah, he does die in the script.
Yes. Okay. So yeah. See, that's all prequel stuff to Gears 1, because at the beginning of Gears 1, Marcus is in prison for getting a bunch of his men killed during an attempt to save his father, where his dad died during the war with the Locust.
Right.
That's what happened. That's what the script is about, Shirley. It's surely about showing that event.
I mean, it leads up to that, and you can tell because in the script, it's kind of, I wouldn't say emotional, but it's very, very impactful.
God damn it, why didn't they make this? Was it supposed to be R-rated?
I'm assuming because there's some pretty some gory scenes in the script here and there.
Fucking better be. If you don't do a Gears movie R-rated and you go, you got to do like Deadpool with Gears, like, and I mean like, or Logan maybe is a better example. No, but because Gears is so over the top though. You got to do like the Deadpool thing.
Right. I mean now, I'm pretty sure if they're going forward with the Gears movie, it's going to have to be rated R.
Yeah.
now.
Well, they just announced a new writer, the guy who wrote Armageddon.
Right.
Which I guess, I mean, that's not I guess fine. It's gonna be exact. It's gonna be exactly what we think it's gonna be. It's probably gonna be pretty similar to. Do you think it's gonna be similar to this script?
Oh no, because the version that I have that we're discussing is the one that was written when New Line Cinema had the rights to Gears.
Oh,
so studios.
Oh, it's questionable what kind of budget they would have had then.
I'm not sure.
I think that's why it didn't happen, because they weren't convinced the budget would make sense with how much money it would make. I mean, which they were probably wrong on. If they would have released it at the right time, it probably would have done quite well.
Actually, New Line Cinema actually scaled back the budget, which was apparently $100 million, and that's the reason why the first director left.
You could totally make a Gears movie with $100 million.
Right. Well, the first director was Len Wiseman. He's mainly known for directing the Underworld movies. Yeah, so he
also directed the. Didn't he direct the? Oh, Len Wiseman. Not. Is there a Doug Wiseman?
Oh, you mean Doug Liman?
Oh, Doug Liman is the other one.
The guy who directed Edge of Tomorrow.
He also directed the fourth Die Hard movie.
Now, he would do a badass Gears of War movie.
Yes, that's what I was going to... See, I thought that's who you meant, and I was like, oh, that sounds great. But
Len Wiseman is this dude who directed the fucking movies.
No, that's no good.
Yeah, he also directed the Total Recall movie from
I have a lot of nostalgia for the Underworld movies. I really liked the first one when I was a kid. But that's because... It's exactly the kind of thing I liked when I was a kid. Dark, violent vampires and werewolves ripping each other apart. So I didn't care that it was nonsensical garbage. The third Underworld movie is definitely the best one, by the way, story-wise.
You see, now, I've seen... it's very difficult. I've seen some of the Underworld movies. I remember watching the first one. I remember watching...
2 is awful. I refuse to sit through it.
They're okay. They're not really like
No, the third one has the best story.
Which one's the third one?
That's the prequel.
Rise of the Lycans, right?
Yes. It just has the most compelling story.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that one because the main, what's her name? She was also in Van Helsing, but she's the main chick in the Underworld movies.
Kate Beckinsale. Yeah, well, she's not in that. At least I don't think maybe she's in the after the credits or something, or she's at the end, but she's not obviously a player in it because it takes place hundreds of years in the past.
You see, I thought that was her in that role.
No.
Then I found out it was a different actress, Rona Mitra.
Yes.
I was like, what the fuck? That's insane.
Yeah, she's been in stuff. I don't remember what, but yeah, they cast her because she looks just like her.
Yeah. So that was insane because I thought that was Kate Beckinsale the whole time.
She may supposed to be like an ancestor. I don't know though. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen any of the Underworld movies. Anyway, Gears of War. How quick do the Locusts show up?
Adam, Marcus's father, he's obsessed with this little project of his of digging into the earth to find I guess life there. It's also been a while.
There's no emulsion in this because the Pendulum War was over emulsion.
I'm pretty sure there is, but like I said, this is a script that I also read once, and that was years ago.
Right.
Because I also have the treatment, and that's only like 22 pages long. So if I want to read Gears, I would just go back and reread the treatment instead.
Mm-hmm.
But the treatment does some things different from the script. There's this scene where I forgot which one does it, but Marcus tries to visit his father, but he hesitates a bit. Then the door is locked, so he has to go in through the window. And his father thinks he's an intruder and shoots him. He misses, but then he realizes it's his son, and he's kind of cold towards Marcus. Now, in the other one, again, I don't know if it's a script or treatment, his father tries to, go after Marcus. So he's trying to play like let me be the father figure, but Marcus shoots him off. That scene where they're introduced for the first time, it's played differently. We were introduced to his father in a bar instead of his house.
Oh, so he's like a drunk?
No, Marcus is actually in the bar, and his father just, he knows he can find him there.
Oh, okay.
You see,
because their relationship was always that his dad was always more obsessed with his work than he was ever worried about him. That was always the deal. And
yeah, the script emphasized a lot.
His work was always being the first person to communicate with the Locusts and trying to prevent a war.
Right. That's actually the first scene where we're kind of given a hint of the Locusts. Adam, I was about to call him Sam. The father, he's about to give up on his project, and he's about to call Marcus, and then he sees something on his monitor, and he just ignores ignoring Marcus and goes back to his work, and that's the first hint we get of the Locusts.
What does he see on the monitor? What do they describe?
Well, something moving. I mean, it's not much detail. It's just something that's so vague. Like, it's hidden, but there's something obviously there moving that gets his attention.
Because I think that's exactly what you do with a Gears movie. You do it like you start off where it's on this planet that's at war, and then you do it like a big disaster movie where the Locusts just come up and try to kill everybody and the humans fight back. It's like Independence Day, but times a million.
Yeah, that's actually how they play off the full appearance of the Locusts when they finally come up from the ground. Because Marcus, Dom, and his girlfriend, they're at a park, and then suddenly, like, the ground collapses and a lot of people die, and the Locusts come up and start killing everybody, and Marcus turns to Dom and he's like, "We got work to do."
Oh, that's great! Oh, because they ought to just start ripping into them then, right? Like with their bare hands and shit. Because they're like The Pendulum Wars were not like, oh, we're a prissy little war. Like they were like, it's like the World War II of that world. Like they really got tested during that time. So
Right.
do they like just rip in with their bare hands, like start using like what's that game called, Dead Rising style, where like that game where you're running around a mall and you just rip into zombies with like beach balls and shit?
If I remember correctly, they cut to they immediately cut to the next scene where they arrive at the base and get their weapons.
Oh, I would love a bit where they're just beating the fucking shit out of them with their bare hands.
I think they probably do, but by the time they have their gears and stuff.
Oh, well, I would prefer when they're in street clothes. I'm just saying, like, just when the monsters just come up, like they're just like, rah! That's what I want. But they don't react with like, what the fuck? They're like, Marcus has that very identifiable voice. That's the other problem. I don't know who the fuck you get to play Marcus Phoenix. Like, that is such a specific caricature. Anybody you get to play him, it's gonna be like, well, you didn't get The Rock though, so what was the point? Because that's who you get, right?
That's the problem with some video games. Like, you have these characters who become iconic in their own right, that it almost seems impossible to find the right actor or actresses to play them.
Yeah.
Well, in the case of Lara Croft, it's kind of different because
Master Chief is easy.
Solid Snake, you could probably get Hugh Jackman for that because he kind of looks like Snake.
He would never agree to do it. Are you crazy?
Yeah, probably not. That's a problem.
So done with that kind of thing.
That's also the problem, because if you find an actor or actress that actually resembles the character, more than likely they won't want to do it. So you're back to square fucking one too.
You gotta get a no name. That's what you gotta do.
Well, they kind of have to look like the character too at the same time. Well, actually, you can achieve that with prosthetics and makeup.
Well, you can't go too far with that. That's gonna look weird. That you get like a remember how Joseph Gordon-Levitt looked in fucking Looper? Yeah, like that.
He looked okay
at points, but otherwise it was like, what are you doing? Anyway,
use the CG young Bruce Willis.
No, they should have just, I don't know, they should just dealt with the fact that they don't look the same.
Or they could have just made Joseph Gordon-Levitt play two roles, and he also played the old version of himself. And
they probably should have done it that way. I don't know why they didn't.
Instead of getting John McClane to play the dude from Third Rock from the Sun.
Because they did it like Face Off, like they did it where it's like, oh, we're going to get two actors, we're going to have them try to kill each other, and they're both going to have this weird relationship with each other, where it's like Bruce Willis is the older version of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the younger version of Bruce Willis. Because they should have put some prosthetics on Bruce Willis to make him look more like an older version of Joseph Gordon-Levitt. No, they should have! Because then that would have balanced it out. They both would have looked really weird, and it would have been a little more sensible. But the problem is, they just tried to make Joseph Gordon-Levitt look like young Bruce Willis, and it just doesn't work. All right, we keep getting off track. Gears of War. What is the action like?
It's actually pretty good. It's a pretty balanced story, to be honest. It's a pretty good I mean, first of all, it's an action film. It's
really all about them repelling the Locust, right?
Yeah. And it balances.
But it doesn't end with them winning, obviously. It's got to just end with, like, it ends with Marcus going to prison, surely, right?
Yeah. And the post-credit scene is the beginning of the first video game where Dom gets him out of prison, and he hands him his gun, and Marcus is all like, "Shit,
great, great."
That's how the movie ends.
Why didn't they make this thing? This is exactly what you do with Gears, because you can't do the first game as a movie. You do the fucking, you do that story where the Locust first arrived, the death of Marcus's father, Marcus's trial, and him going to jail, and then you just do Gears of War 2. That's what you do. You don't need to do the first game. Because the Gears 2 is about humanity at its absolute most desperate point, because the locusts are literally knocking entire cities off the map. They have big worms that are just knocking cities underground, entire cities at once. And they have they have to have certain strongholds where the bedrock is stronger, so that way this doesn't happen. But it's becoming less and less probable for that to work. So that's what you do with the second one. So that sounds perfect to me.
Right. The writer who wrote this, I forgot to say, to open up with this, Stuart Beattie, he wrote the script, which is kind of surprising because he wrote G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra, which is not a very good film.
I haven't seen it.
Really?
Mm-mm. I was never into G.I. Joe.
It's bad. I remember I was a big fan of it at that time, but I was a fucking kid.
Isn't Brendan Fraser in that movie? I
like Transformers at that time, but the more I think about it, G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra it's really, really dumb.
Have you seen the second one? I heard that was better.
Yeah, it was better, but it was still dumb, but better. It's kind of a shame because the first G.I. Joe movie was directed by Stephen Sommers, the guy who wrote and directed the first two Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser and Van Helsing.
Well, yeah, Brendan Fraser is in it, isn't he? And isn't he playing like the grandson of the character from the Mummy?
In the G.I. Joe?
Yeah. Have you never heard that?
Well, he's in the movie, but I didn't know he's playing the grandson of the dude from the Mummy.
He's got the same last name, O'Connell.
I thought that was just an Easter egg.
It is just an Easter egg.
What?
Well, yeah, he has the same last name, and in an interview, Brendan Fraser was like, yeah, he was supposed to be the grandson of the character from the Mummy, so they're in the same universe.
Holy shit. I did not know this.
Yep. Blowing your mind right there. When are we going to get the crossover? That's what I'm wondering. What else?
Like Stuart Beattie, he wrote this. It's pretty clear that all the blame shouldn't be directed towards him for G.I. Joe, because this first draft of Gears of War, he completely wrote it himself, and it's a damn good script because I really liked it. It really doesn't feel like, like Halo, like the scripts I read for Halo and God of War. This feels like something that's been very, very thought out, something that's been very well structured. It doesn't feel like, someone's experience of a video game adapted into a screenplay.
Because it's not an adaptation of a video game. It's the story that happened that sets up the first game.
Right.
Which is why it's brilliant.
Right. And I had a point with this, but you made me lose it.
I apologize. I'm very good at that.
I mean, even if you did a prequel, there's bound to be like some sort of like I don't want to say resemblance, but I guess faithfulness to the video games, to like, throw those Easter eggs for the fans here and there.
Well, what you do is you make it feel like it could be set in the exact same world, and you just set up that world.
Right.
And it sounds exactly like the fucking. It sounds exactly like the first, like the same world. I mean, nothing you told me indicates that anything is any different, except that you said it was Dom and his girlfriend.
Yeah, he has a girlfriend, and I don't know if he does in the video games. I have no idea.
He has a wife in the video games, Maria. Maria's a big deal. She goes. That's not a big deal in the script. She goes missing during the war.
Huh. I just I guess there is a yeah. I coincidentally I just popped up the page where Maria appears. I have the treatment opened, and it says, as the old man goes, Dom enters with his wife So
so they're married. They're married. Yep.
Like I said, it's been a while since I read the script, so my memory of certain elements are a bit hazy.
That's what I love about it, man. It's great fun. So okay. They don't do the whole, like, she goes, the locusts kidnap her. I guess they would do that in the sequel.
Probably. I think they have kids.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. They do have kids, but they die in the light mass bombing, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've played the games.
I think they die here or something happens to them because I specifically.
Oh, okay, so yeah, so that. Okay, so yes, so to answer my question, they do set that up.
Because something happens to Maria in this story, and she goes kind of like not crazy, but she goes off the rails because she lost her children, and Dom is worried about her.
What happens to her at the end? Does she die, go missing?
I I don't remember because,
She's supposed to go missing during the bombings.
like I said, it's been a while since I read the script. I should have read the treatment because it's only 22 pages, but
No, that's okay. Because I haven't played the first Gears game in a long time, and I'm trying to remember if she goes missing after that game, like during the, because the end of Gears 1 is when they fucking light mass bomb the Locust, and it fucks up a lot of Sarah, and I'm trying to remember if that's when she goes missing, or if it's actually prior to that. No, she's missing during Gears 1. So that should happen in this script. That would have to. Unless what they could do, and this would work as well, I think this is how the game plays it, if I'm pretty sure, is that it happens between. Like Marcus gets out of jail and Dom is like, Maria's gone missing, and he sort of mentions it as they're going along. And then Gears 2 is very much so about that.
see, I remember specifically I was doing this co-op mission with my friend where Dom and Marcus come across like some sort of locust base, and Dom retrieves something of his wife, Maria, and you get the option to either go in there guns blazing or go stealth. As a matter of fact, Marcus tells him, if you want to go in there guns blazing, I don't blame you.
Yes, I remember that part.
One or two.
That's Gears 2. Yes, I remember that part. But you didn't find his wife though, because that happens in Gears 2.
Oh,
I think that's I think that's got to be that's like in the second act of Gears 2. I'm pretty sure. Again, it's been a little bit.
I guess his wife does go missing at one point here, because I do remember that something also happens to Maria and Dom goes distressed about it.
Yeah, well, that's the state he's in during the 3 games. Except in 3, it's a lot. He's like nearly suicidal.
Right.
But what else was I gonna say? I was gonna ask you something very specific.
Well, in the meantime, let me tell you the history about this script.
Okay, yeah.
In 2007, New Line Cinema got the rights for Gears of War, and that's when they hired Stuart Beattie to write this script. And needless to say, they lost the rights to it at one point to Universal, and now Universal is doing it, but they're not going to be doing this script. And
well, I presume they can't. They probably don't have the rights to it.
I mean, you mean to this story?
They probably can use bits of it.
I mean, they probably can use this.
I guess they could. I guess they must have the rights to it. I guess they could. They probably could just use that script if they wanted to. They would have to credit him though.
Yeah, they would have to get permission from the creators of Gears, because it's their property.
Well, of course, but they presumably have that already.
Right.
So I'm saying they would have to go to the guy who wrote that script though and go, "Hey, this is pretty much exactly what you have to do with the Gears movie. Can we just make this?" And we'll credit you obviously, and we'll touch it up a little bit to work now. But otherwise, we're just going to do this story.
I don't think Stuart Beattie is going to be involved anymore, because they got a new writer, Shane Salarino, if I'm pronouncing that.
And what he ought to do is just do this script.
Well, when they announced the new writer, they said that the movie is not going to be based on any of the games. It's going to be a new story set in the universe.
Oh, I hope it's not like an Assassin's Creed thing though, where it's like a different set of characters and like you just see bits and pieces of Marcus and Dom, because that's not going to be no good. Is there any bit of Delta Squad in it like Baird, the other guy. I can't remember his name. What's his name? Cole, the Cole Train.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was skimming through the script and I saw a name, Cole, Cole.
That's Cole, the Cole Train. He's a thrash ball player who's turned war hero during the Locust War.
I'm assuming those characters are in this story because, like I said, I'm not very much. I'm not that much well known or inversed with the mythology of Gears.
Well, they don't join up with Marcus and Dom until the first game, so they wouldn't be with them in the first game, this story. But they would probably have to be referenced at some point, because they were certainly involved in those events. They were just off doing different things in a different squad. They get matched up in the game because they're all, like, sort of misfits.
Like, here's the names I'm seeing. I'm seeing a General Ram. I'm seeing
he's the villain from the first game.
I'm seeing a Jacinto, Jacinto.
Jacinto. That's the
Jacinto.
That's the capital of Sarah.
I'm seeing a Colonel Hoffman.
Hey, Hoffman! He's great. He's the military commander.
I'm seeing a Adam.
Adam.
And that's I guess the father.
Oh, that's Adam Phoenix. Adam Phoenix, yeah.
There's the Cog. There's drones.
The Cog is that's the name of the army.
There's Anya. Cole. There he is.
Cole Train.
It says we see Cole unleashing hell. Baird fights at his side.
Oh yeah,
Gears
there you go.
Everywhere.
Cole and Baird are the characters who. I don't imagine that they're main players though. They're probably only in it briefly in like a big battle sequence or something.
What's a Gnasher?
That's a weapon.
And there's a Lancer.
Yeah, that's a main. Oh, I think the Gnasher is the shotgun and the Lancer is the assault rifle.
The Wretch. I'm assuming that's a Locust.
A Wretch is like a frog-looking thing. They're like grunts in Halo.
Huh. Yeah, that's a few of the names I see skimming through the treatment. Berserker.
A drone is like a I guess it's sort of like an elite.
I'm seeing a Berserker. Caverns.
Not elite, but whatever. Just a basic thing you shoot. Anyway.
Yep, there's more, but
Do they go underground? No, right? Because that's Gears 2.
Yeah. They do go underground.
Oh, they do go underground. That's mostly in Gears 2. There's a little bit of that in Gears 1. But otherwise, they don't get the chance to go underground.
I specifically remember because I think that is the thing that causes the Locusts to get pissed and come up.
Well, because they're mining and they're going to war underground. But, like, because there are humans fighting with fucking tanks and shit underground. And the Locusts are just like, please don't.
Actually, they're looking for the Locusts when they go underground.
No,
if I remember
but
correctly.
I'm saying in the Pendulum Wars.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure after the Locust attack, you're saying, though. They go underground looking for them. Either
it's before or after. I can't remember, but I do specifically remember COG soldiers going underground to look for the Locusts.
They don't know that they're coming though, right? Like that, they're obviously all surprised, right?
Who, the Locusts?
No, the humans. When the Locusts attack, they're obviously like, "What the fuck is this about?"
When they come up, that's unexpected. That's a major surprise.
I would imagine so. But Adam Phoenix obviously knew about them. He was trying to prevent them from doing that. But that's revealed in Gears 3. Mostly. It's implied in the other two games, though. He had some dirty dealings with them. Because the Locust Queen isn't in this, right? Because she's more in Gears 2.
No, I don't remember anything about a queen in this script.
That's more Gears 2.
Right. I'm seeing a Reavers, Cedars, Nemesis.
Yeah, those are all names I remember things that I killed.
they're on guards, Brumox.
Brumax, yeah, that's like the big T-Rex looking thing. That's what people really love about Gears is the Brumax. You get to pilot one at some point.
Right. So yeah, that's all there is to this script of Gears of War. It's really, really good.
Yeah, why didn't they fucking make that? Whoever, writer of the current one, if you're listening, fuck you. Just use this script. Because it sounds exactly like what it should be. You don't do the first game. The first game does not have a story. You do this. You do the setup to the first game. Then you do Gears 2. That is how you do Gears of War movies.
If they made this film, if they had the opportunity to make this film without any red tape or any complications, I feel like
red tape via Shin Godzilla.
It probably would have sucked because this would have been produced at a time when studios still thought that PG-13 films were surefire hits instead of like R-rated films like now.
Yeah, because you can get teenagers buying. If they would have been making this movie at the time when they were going to make it, they would have made it for somebody like me, who was the age that Gears was marketed towards, like 15, 16, whose parents were buying the games for them.
Right.
So it probably would have been PG-13. But what they should do is make an R-rated fucking science fiction war movie and then deal with the fact that kids will go to see it and let the adults enjoy it and make it for them and kids who can will access it. I
mean, now that we're living in the age of post-Deadpool and Logan and R-rated Batman versus Superman,
I don't see a version of this movie that is not R-rated.
It has to be R-rated.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
You can't do Gears PG-13. It doesn't work. Halo, you can do PG-13. Uncharted, you can do PG-13. Those games are T for teen, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not the new one, but otherwise, I'm pretty sure they're T for teen. But right. Gears of War, chainsaws instead of bayonets, you got to do that R-rated.
I mean, 7 years ago when they were trying to make the Deadpool movie, the studio pushed them to make it PG-13.
Yeah, I know. Thank God they got away with what they got away with.
Yeah, because I mean, Watchmen, they did that R-rated, but unfortunately that flopped. The budget was $130 million for that movie, and it only grossed $185 million worldwide, which is not a lot. So I guess films like that kind of killed.
Shit.
I guess they killed opportunities like Gears to be produced at that time, which is kind of a good thing because we're living in the age of nerd culture, and films like that are becoming more.
People are putting more time and money and effort into them.
Yeah, they're putting more care and effort into these films. Where back then they just would have made something like fucking Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li.
Right. Well, these things are what studios make their money on now, as opposed to back then when they were like, "Oh, we'll try this."
Yeah, they were just brands back then.
Oh no, they're brands now too. But now they're like, well, this is a brand, the brand that we're going to make money with. Universal really needs something like Gears. They need a big action sci-fi thing that's of their own volition. They're trying to do this monster thing. This new Mummy movie does not look that good to me at all. I don't know about you.
I'm actually pretty excited for it. I'm really curious. I'm really curious how it's because they got two guys to basically develop the universe of the Universal Monsters.
And it's not in continuity with Dracula Untold, right?
No, Dracula Untold is officially not canon anymore with the new Universal Monsters. The Mummy is officially the first installment in this new Universal Monsters reboot.
There is a vampire skull in the trailer?
Of The Mummy?
Yeah.
There is?
Yeah, there's a vampire skull in one of the trailers. Which, I mean, it's of course. That's really obvious.
I'm going to have to look this up now, because I only saw that trailer once.
No, there's a couple of trailers now.
I know.
They're all really boring.
I'm seeing less and less of the trailers on purpose. I only saw the first trailer where it had that Tom Cruise orgasm screen that... Oh, it's so cringeworthy. I hope that's not in the movie, because if it is, I'm going to laugh. out loud, and I'm going to be the only one.
I know exactly how that went. He turned to the director and he was like, "Look, I'm a big action star. It's unceremonious for me to do a big scream like that because I'm a big action star. I'm a big male lead, and I'm gonna do it because it'll break that idea, and it'll be cool because this is a horror movie, so it'll add more to that feeling of terror because I'm lowering myself to that, and it is the most hysterical thing ever."
That sounds like some shit that Val Kilmer would have done in the 90s. Because I saw that documentary you recommended me about Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
And there's this scene where what's the name of the director? Stanley something?
Richard Stanley. Which one? The first guy or the guy they brought in?
Richard Stanley.
Yeah.
He says that he had this little spout with Val Kilmer, this little power struggle thing where Val Kilmer said to him, "Directors stand behind the camera, so go stand over there and do your director thing."
Right.
He was just a total dick with everyone there.
Right.
That's how you're playing off Tom Cruise with this version.
I mean, that seems to be Tom Cruise now. Val Kilmer has seemed to mellow it out a little bit since then.
Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise. He's
well, Val Kilmer is not Val Kilmer anymore. He's Val Kilmer.
Yeah, he's the guy that used to be Batman.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is still looks like,
Well, Tom Cruise is still Tom Cruise. Like he's he's still a big deal, even if he hasn't made a movie that's emotionally resonated with anyone in 10 years.
Yeah, he's still the fucking Scientologist.
Well, the last couple of Mission Impossible movies were popular, so he's still okay.
Right.
He's just riding on Mission Impossible right now, though.
That's why he's still Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I think that's why he's on the Mummy movies, because A, Tom Cruise still needs a career. B, some people still love Tom Cruise, so...
He needs a Robert Downey Jr. franchise. He needs a franchise that he can be involved in a bunch of different movies, not just like, oh, we're making this one, then the sequel. He can be in The Mummy, he can be in The Wolfman, he can be in a whole like a fucking I don't know what you're gonna call this supposed like Universal Monsters shared universe movie you're gonna eventually build up to. Like House of Frankenstein, is that what you're gonna call it? Because that's what you'd be doing. That's what you'd be remaking.
Like what they're gonna name this specific series?
No, the big movie where they bring all of them together.
Oh. They're probably going to come up with something that's very simplistic.
Something very cheesy, the Monster Mash or whatever.
Or just
no, they can't use that because in Skull Island, the last track on the soundtrack is called Monster Mash because that's a setup for Godzilla 2.
well, that a soundtrack can get away with a title like that. A movie can't. Monster Mash.
You can call a movie Monster Mash. I mean, it would have to be like
it's gonna sound like a comedy.
It probably would have to be like a kitschy, like self-aware kaiju thing, but it would still be a good name. Anyway,
for a serious film like the Universal Monsters.
No. I mean, I made that as a joke because it would be a bad idea for them to do that, but that's what they would do. I don't know what you call that otherwise. House of Frankenstein, War of the Monsters, I guess, but there are a million different movies called War of the Monsters. Anyway, we're way off track. We should wrap this up. So that is it for Gears of War and God of War. Very similar sounding fucking same same initials, GOW. So very similar sounding titles for games. And two radically different scripts. One that sounds like mediocre, obvious garbage, and one that sounds like exactly what it should be. So, David, any hint for next time, man?
I'm not sure because
we might be getting
surprise.
That's right. It's fair. But we also might be getting a guest on soon, so I don't know if we're going to make that happen next time. Most likely not next time, though. So we'll plan to do something else, but if you have any little tiny hint, just to tantalize the listener.
I'm not making any promises, but if all goes to plan, there's a script I would like to talk about of a certain live of a certain anime that was popular in the late 80s. An anime film, more specifically.
I think
They
I know.
they hint Warner Brothers still has the rights to this particular intellectual property, and for years they've been trying to get this off the ground. It's a live action remake. That's still going to be the main thing, and so many fucking actors and filmmakers have gone in and out of this thing. Right now, they're trying to get the director for Get Out to possibly direct it.
Oh, wow. All right, I know what you're talking about now for sure then. Most of the listeners probably do too, but we'll get into the details next time on Lost Found But Never Filmed. Until then, I'm Bill Worcester, a.k.a. Zazubaar.
I'm Gorzard, and is it greetings or what's the opposite of greetings?
What's the opposite of greetings? Farewell.
Oh.
That is... All right.
Farewell programs.
I
These programs doesn't make sense.
If you lost it, we'll find it, but you ain't gonna fucking film it.